here on Wake Up Worcester. Our guest today is Marty Lamb. He is seeking the Republican nomination. 3rd Congressional District here in Massachusetts. Seems as if everybody is running these days, Marty, and you are going to be taking on, you hope, Congressman Jim McGovern, sitting congressman 10 years that he has been, 10, 12 years?
He's in his 13th, going in actually his 14th right now.
14th year, wow, long time, incumbent then. Always when you're taking on a long-time incumbent, I'm sure that gives you some pluses and minuses probably to work with. I would think, though, that to have somebody that entrenched, tough to be able to dislodge. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, and we'll get into a little bit of your game plan and why you're running.
Well, I'm a native Bay Stater, first of all. I grew up in Massachusetts all my life, born and bred here. I grew up in Sharon, and except for a couple of years during my college days, I've been in Massachusetts ever since. My wife and I, along with my 2 teenage daughters, live in Metro West in Holliston, and we've been out there about probably 20, 25 years now. I haven't counted lately.
All right.
And I'm a small business owner. I have a small real estate law office. I practice primarily in residential real estate. So if you're buying a home, selling a home, I'm the guy you'd go to. And I deal with the people one-on-one on a daily basis.
Interesting. So now where does the interest in politics come from?
Politics for me has always been a passion. I haven't been an elected official at all whatsoever. I'm not an insider. I'm a business owner. I'm a family man. I pay my mortgage. But I've always followed politics ever since I was a kid. My wife has commented a while ago that I have the news on 24/7. When most guys are sitting back watching the game, I'm watching the pundits discuss what's happening in Washington.
Right.
I live and breathe politics.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, it certainly is a blood sport here in Massachusetts. You ready for that part of it? They say, I mean, especially in a congressional race, you got to have a pretty thick skin. It can get pretty rough.
The more I get into this, and I actually announced my candidacy last April 15th. So, well, it wasn't as serious back then, trillion to 1 odds back then. But the more it progresses, the more I've been doing this, the more I'm enjoying it. Every time something hits the fan, as far as the questions, the hard balls, the harder it is, the more I enjoy it, the better it gets.
So April 15th, so you've been at this almost a year.
That's correct.
Interesting. All right. Before I get into what you learned over that year, let's just talk about the date. April 15th, obviously a very important date because we're all paying our taxes, but this past year it was also the date in which we had the Tea Parties throughout the nation. You tied to the Tea Party movement?
It's hard to say tied to the Tea Party movement. Yes, I announced at the Tea Party in Boston on April 15th. I don't see the Tea Party as a party. It was a group of Americans out of pure frustration. Each one of us had our own issue or issues that just got frustrated to the point where we stood up and said, we Americans, patriots, need to stand up and take a stand. And that's exactly what I did. My wife and I were in Boston at the Tea Party, and I stood up. I didn't make the decision then. The decision had been made a long time before that, but stood up on the podium with a megaphone and said, my name is Marty Lamb. I am running for Congress. I will be the next congressman in the 3rd District.
So a lot of symbolism, obviously, to announce at that Tea Party in Boston. There was a Tea Party going on here in Worcester as well, which of course is the anchor of the 3rd Worcester District. Why not announce it here at the Tea Party?
My intention when I went to the Tea Party demonstration party was not to make an announcement. I had already been telling friends and family what I planned to do, and of course their typical response back then was, are you nuts?
Right.
And maybe I am a little bit, but it just, they opened up the microphone and said, if anyone has anything to say, please come up here. And I took that opportunity.
Now, here we are almost a year later. There's going to be another Tea Party rally in Boston, another one in Worcester as well. Will you be attending either of those?
I am planning on attending both the Boston on the 14th as well as the Worcester on the 15th.
Yeah, interesting. Now, I mean, it seems as if there's a lot of candidates who are coming from the Tea Party movement, we'll call it. But there's also been quite a bit in the news, of course, about how, you know, is the Republican Party trying to co-opt the Tea Party movement, that a lot of people who identify themselves with that were just as angry at George W. Bush as they had been at President Barack Obama. That, I mean, you know, smaller taxes, smaller government, felt that both parties have just been spending us into oblivion. Your feeling on that?
It's hard to break down in my mind, at least for myself, and I can only look at myself. Obviously, I've spoken to a lot of people I've been with. throughout either the Tea Party movement meetings, through the big Tea Party last April, are actually sitting down with people, or standing out holding signs for Scott Brown over time. And I think each one of us has the similar umbrella of why we're here, that we just decided it's time to stand up and take action. Whether it's holding a sign for Scott, whether it's going to Tea Party demonstrations and chanting towards our elected officials, you work for us. There's something that motivated each of these Americans. And I've always been, well, for many years I was unenrolled. I was not registered with either party. I did decide within the past year to affiliate with a party, and yes, the Republican Party, because the core values I believe in. And I feel it's necessary in Massachusetts, especially running for office, to affiliate. It's not a third-party candidate isn't going to make it.
Right, very difficult. Even in this climate, although it seems as if a lot more want to try because of Scott Brown's victory. And I want to talk a little bit about Scott Brown as well. Why unenrolled for so many years?
I've always felt myself to be an independent. I've never truly voted the party line. If a candidate is a good candidate, if they have the core values I believe in, I'm going to vote for the person, not the party. As it turns out, of course, most of the people I've voted for have that R next to it. Again, like myself, the core, what I've always called the core American values, seem to line up with the core Republican values. Smaller government, less spending, lower taxes, standing behind entrepreneurs and business, the free market, enterprise, and a strong defense.
So now a year ago, as you said, your family and your friends are like, oh boy, Marty's out there. He's a little bit nuts about that. I'm willing to bet that as you held those signs for Scott Brown, the excitement building and then Scott Brown doing what was thought to be the impossible, to win against Martha Coakley in that special election that saw about 60% of the population turn out. I mean, just a huge, unprecedented turnout for a special election. All of a sudden, did people begin to change their minds then, or was it actually building but before then? Because all of a sudden now it probably doesn't seem so crazy.
The light went off in my head when Doug Hoffman in the 23rd in New York was running in the special election. And I saw him as similar to me as far as a background. He's a small business owner. He's an accountant. I'm a lawyer, but still small business owner. His election cycle was a very short one. And even though he was running as a conservative party member, not a Republican Party member, he was running as a business person, not as a politician. He didn't get it. He was close. And his campaign really inspired me and made it click in my mind that yes, it is possible. That's the first time that I actually looked at this as more than getting out there and getting issues out, but as a serious race.
All right, we're going to talk about those issues straight ahead with congressional candidate Marty Lamb right here on Wake Up Worcester.